They just destroyed that land, and it wasn't even like a second thought. It was the devastation alone as you see all these animals flying away and fire engulfs them.
No! In the face! In the face! Where were you? Photographing squirrels? You're fired.
Chief, the planetarium party.
Oh, right. You're unfired. I need you. Come here.
You don't have any friends. Nobody likes you.
Not listening. Not listening.
I shot him 6 times. I shot him in the heart. This guy, this man, he's not human.
You think you could steal from us and just walk away?
Yeah. Welcome back to another episode of Get a Load of This Movie, a franchise movie podcast where we talk about movies that are part of a franchise. My name is Corey Keithley, and I am here with my co-hosts Zach and Cole. We have another great episode for you today. We are talking about the second movie in the Avatar trilogy, The Way of Water. It's going to be more than a trilogy, but right now it's just a trilogy, as we know for sure. We were talking about Avatar: The Way of Water that is streaming on Disney Plus, so go check it out and then come listen along as we gear up for Fire and Ash coming out on December 15th. I wrote this down. I can't remember if it's 14th or... Oh, it's the 19th. I'm sorry. I think on the last episode I said the 14th. It is December 19th it's coming out, and that will be in theaters. Definitely see that one in theaters. That is going to be a very, very good one. We are doing a little bit of a shorter episode today because we're trying to do as many episodes as we can for you before the holiday season comes up and before our third Load Taker Awards comes out, which I am very, very excited for. I had a little bit of news that I wanted to talk about with you guys that has something to do with the Avatar. Avengers. Disney announced Avengers Endgame is re-releasing in theaters. I don't know why you're laughing. I think this is a very serious topic, honestly. They are announcing that it is re-releasing in theaters, which is not uncommon. It happened during the original theatrical release. It happened towards the end, kind of give it a little push over Avatar. But this time,
Avatar re-released.
Well, Avatar re-released because it was like an anniversary or something. So Disney is doing this to re-release Avengers Endgame, but this time with a new end credit scene. They are doing a new end credit scene that will lead into Avengers Doomsday. I have an opinion on this, and I will say it, and I want you guys to think about your opinions on this before we get into it. I think this is a great move. I think this is absolutely what they needed to do. They had lost their way. They had lost their footing. They were not exactly sure what their future was going to be. They thought it was in TV shows on Disney Plus, and I think they realized that failed. And I think they realized they spread themselves too thin. And so when the movies came out, they weren't as big because people were still catching up on the shows. And by the time they would catch up on the shows, they'd be like, well, you know, the movie's going to be on Disney Plus soon anyway, so I'm not going to go see it in theaters. When those movies were like made the big blockbuster summer movies or winter movies, depending on when it would release, like those were the movies of the year, and they had lost that. I think they are trying to recapture that. And I honestly think this is a good way of doing it. Avengers Endgame was last time they really had their foot. I mean, besides Spider-Man, I think Spider-Man was fine. I think they did good is that Phase 4? I think Phase 4 was for the most part okay, but I think resetting to Avengers Endgame and kind of reestablishing where they are, I think this is the right call. Am I going to go see it? I don't know. But I will say, if there is a trailer or like a end credit scene that gets me more excited for Avengers Doomsday, I'm all for it. I used to love Marvel. I used to be obsessed with watching every single one of them. What I would give for that little bit of Christmas magic to come back into my life. So I would definitely hope that it is on something that would grab me. But what do you guys think about that?
I'm Zach, by the way.
I already introduced you.
Oh, you did?
I introduced both of you.
Wow. Well, now that they have a voice to the name, I agree with you, Corey. And honestly, I agree with you more having listened to your spiel there than I did at the beginning of it. I was letting myself. I let myself stay open to the idea of, you know what? Yeah, maybe I will get some of that magic back. And you know, like
exactly.
we've all been a bit jaded about Marvel, and you know, it's not like I'm. Yeah, Cole.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's not like I'm gonna, you know, it's not like I'm going. I'll see Spider-Man, but it's not like I'm gonna go into Spider-Man as excited as I would have been going into even No Way Home, you know, or Far From Home even. with just how hyped we all were back then for these types of movies. But I will go in Endgame. If I probably will go see it again in theaters, if I can, because it's definitely a theater movie for sure.
It is.
I remember that experience in the theater is probably unlike one I'll ever have again in terms of just how invested we all were into that narrative. And I think kind of reminding us of that feeling before going into Avengers Doomsday is a smart move, like you were saying, Corey. And the new scene at the end probably, I mean, again, it's marketing. We see the strings here. We know what they're doing. But sure, I'll go into it and I'll stay for the end credits. I'll be curious, and I'll be a little Disney sheep again for 3.5 hours going to go see Endgame again. Can't wait.
Well, what do you think about all this?
So I did not know about the new end credit scene. That is something I just learned for the first time here in this room from Corey.
We break news on this podcast.
Yes, we do.
We break so much news.
We're recording this a week and a half before this episode comes out at the earliest.
But anyway. I didn't know that. That being said, I mean, that makes me more excited to see it. But also, I saw something where someone said the goal is effectively to say, like, screw phase 4 and phase 5 and do a direct sequel to Endgame, which kind of harshes what they're doing, but also if they are doing this new end credits scene, I guarantee it's going to be something like Doctor Doom killing Kang, or maybe it's what they did at the end of Captain America: The First Avenger, where it was literally just the trailer. That being said, I think Zach described that theater experience as one he'd never have again, and I can kind of agree, just because, I mean, there's
People
that
cried.
meme. I did cry. There was that, Corey didn't even see it with me. He just knows. There's the meme of the little boy watching the first Iron Man, and then he's grown up and he's seeing all these heroes come together to make this movie, and that is what it felt like. It was like my childhood had grown up with me. So that being said, yeah, if I get a chance to watch that movie in theaters again, I will take that.
I think it's going to be one of those movies that comes back to theaters a few times. But I don't know if I'd go see it just because there's lots of other movies to see, and I don't know exactly when it's going to be re-releasing. But if that end credit scene can get me excited for Doomsday, I would love to be excited for a franchise that I can't be pulled away from. That's something I like in my life. So that was my big news. Did you guys have anything else on the docket? But we can move on if we don't have anything on to, not the call sheet because it's a little bit shorter, the action.
Even the opening scene, there's always some random girl who gets a call that undoubtedly ends up getting her killed. It's also predictable. There's no element of surprise. You can see everything coming.
Did that surprise you?
Why?
Because you talk too much. Now shut the fuck up and watch the movie.
You guys,
Now,
what
Cole,
happened in this movie?
I forgot to watch it. I straight up did not watch it again. I watched it 3 weeks ago, and then I did not watch it again. So
Corey watched
tell
this
me?
immediately after he watched the first one, and then said, you know what? I'm not doing that again.
I was like, I kind of get the gist. That's what I said to myself.
Well, Corey, I'll tell you what happens.
Thank God.
Jake and Natiri have built a family on Pandora with children Nataeum, Loak, Took, an adoptive daughter, Kiri, while Spider, Quaritch's human son, grows up close to them. The RDA returns to recolonize Pandora, deploying recombinant soldiers, including a revived Avatar version of Quaritch. Quaritch kidnaps Jake's children, but Jake and Natiri rescue them. However, Spider is captured and gradually forms a conflicted bond with Quaritch. To protect Spider's knowledge from being exploited, Jake moves his family to live with the ocean-dwelling Metkayina. The Sully family struggles... What?
I was just re-saying it. Metkayina.
Metkayina. It's a fun word. The Sully family struggles to adapt, but Loak befriends Tisarea and a Tulkun named
Oof, might need to take some time away.
Biakon, who saves his life and becomes his outcast companion. Kiri experiences a spiritual vision at the underwater spirit tree but suffers a dangerous seizure, prompting medical intervention and a warning not to connect again because she has prefrontal epilepsy. Quaritch and the RDA track Jake to the Metkayina, burning villages and using a whaling fleet to hunt Tulkuns in order to flush them out. Loak learns Piakon's tragic backstory, discovering he attacked human hunters in revenge for his mother's death, breaking Tulkun pacifist laws. A massive sea battle erupts when the children are captured. Netayam dies saving his siblings, and Piakon attacks the whaling ship, and Jake defeats Quaritch in an underwater fight. Spider secretly saves Quaritch. What the fuck, Spider? But returns to the Sullys. After Netayam's funeral, the Metkayina accept Jake's family permanently as they pledge to keep fighting the RDA.
Thank you, Cole. Zach, you wrote a question that I would like you to lead off with. I think this is a good starter discussion.
Zach out here writing questions?
Right. Okay, yeah. So one thing with this movie, let me lead off with this. I kind of brought this up last time that there was questions of whether or not Avatar 2, when it would get made for the longest time. Because I think initially after the huge success after Avatar, I think the initial year they threw out there was like Avatar 2 coming in 2012 or 2013, something along those lines, like a 3 to 4 year gap. That kept getting pushed back. Obviously, James Cameron was getting more ambitious with how many sequels he wanted to shoot at once. You know, Enemy of the Pod, Adam, we had a bet of when Avatar 2 would come out. I ended up being wrong because when Disney bought Fox, they moved it back another year. So it was just a long time waiting for this sequel. And then when that first teaser came out, do you remember that first teaser? It's very little dialogue, and it's just like building drums, and you just get a lot of visuals of, you know, Jake and Neytiri back, and a lot of new Pandora visuals, all that stuff. Really, honestly, maybe one of the best teasers of all time. I really mean that. I'm not trying to be hyperbolic. I think it was incredible. Really kind of got you amped again for a big movie, because that's what these are. You know, for better, you know, some people say maybe too big, but these are big movies that there's just a lot of hype around it, and it took a while for this movie to get made. So I was thinking, like, and this is, you know, we also talked about there's been no spinoffs, no shows or anything else in between, just Avatar, then Avatar 2. What were other movies that were like long awaited sequels, like first time getting a sequel to that movie? And the two that I thought of recently, and it's not like I was a big fan of either of these originals before the sequel came out. I watched, like, for the two examples I have written here, I have Top Gun Maverick and Blade Runner 2049. I watched Top Gun before Top Gun Maverick because I knew Top Gun Maverick was happening. You know, like, or I'd heard, it wasn't like right before, but like,
You
we
hadn't
knew
seen
Top
it
Gun Maverick was
before
going
it
to
was
happen.
announced?
What do you?
You hadn't seen it before Maverick was announced?
I don't think so. Maybe I did. I don't know. That one, it was right around then. Blade Runner, for sure, I watched because Blade Runner 2049 was coming out. So I wanted to watch Blade Runner. So like that, those are long awaited sequels. I don't know if people, Top Gun was probably more of one than Blade Runner in the sense of like, oh, you could expect that maybe there could be a sequel to Top Gun after the first Top Gun was such a big movie. Blade Runner, the way the first Blade Runner ends and just the type of movie it is, I don't know if anyone was like, oh, there'll be another Blade Runner soon. That was not as obvious.
I still haven't seen the first Blade Runner.
It's really good if you watch the correct version.
Which one is the correct version? Ridley Scott has released like 30.
Either way, not the theatrical one, put it that way. So I was just thinking about, those are kind of the cream of the crop in this regard of like long sequels after a big gap of time. We've been seeing some comedies lately, but those are really hit miss. I think Beetlejuice is probably like we've talked about those before.
Coming
like
to America too.
Yeah, like, see, those kind of come and go.
Coming to America.
Beetlejuice was a big success, so that's kind of the outlier in that regard. But a lot of the times when you have this much time in between, it's hard not to feel disappointed. Say all this to say, I think this movie lived up to the first movie, and like the heavy anticipation that went into, you know, another James Cameron Avatar movie.
You know, I do have a counter argument to that, though, which is most of the legacy sequels we have gotten, we did not know that they were necessarily coming. We always knew that Cameron wanted to make a sequel. It wasn't the if, it was the when. So that being said, like, I wouldn't really classify this in like that type of long-awaited sequel because, I mean, it was supposed to come out at a certain point, but he didn't want to shoot it a certain way, and that's props to him for wanting to shoot it the way that he wanted to shoot it and refusing to take, like, anybody else's crap and, like, doing it his own way. Movies like Gladiator
Yeah.
and Gladiator 2, it just feels like Ridley Scott's at a point where he wants to do whatever the fuck he wants. Is one of those legacy sequels we never saw coming. Same with Top Gun Maverick, though I think those are in two different tiers of film.
And also, Top Gun Maverick's actually a sequel. Twisters is just another Twister movie with the same title. There really is no, like, besides the Dorothy, quote unquote, technology that gets mentioned, there's no character or narrative carryover.
Yeah. But that being said, I mean, I think you can't. This all being said, to say, I don't think you can just compare those to Avatar Way of Water because they're all in like a little bit of a different category. It's a different director. It's a different creative vision. It's a ton of different things.
That's true.
That go together. I mean, we can argue this till we're blue in the face, but we all know Denny's vision of 2049 is probably a lot different than what Ridley does if he's back in the saddle for that one. I mean, I think the only one we can compare apples to apples is Gladiator 1 and Gladiator 2 because it is the same direct. And who
taking my examples
knew how long Ridley wanted to make Gladiator 2. He could have been sitting on it for the better part of like 30 years waiting for the right actor. He could have just waited for a moment where he could say fuck it, but
he was like, mortgage payments due, gotta pump out a new Avatar.
I gotta make a
new
Avatar.
Gladiator. Gotta make a new Gladiator. Sorry, not Avatar.
But yeah, all that being said to say, I mean, I don't compare it to those sequels just because a lot of them, they're apples and oranges type deals because they are legacy sequels and we had no idea that those were even going to get made when the first film came out.
Yeah. This is definitely not a legacy sequel in that sense, where this is definitely more of a traditional, like, part 2 than a like coasting on what the first one meant to people, so like that. And I appreciate that. This is a very natural next chapter, and it very much feels like a middle chapter given how it ends. And it's fine because we know the third one's coming. It doesn't stand on its own like the first one can. The first one can be a clean enough ending and it could end there and it's fine. You can't just end the narrative with this movie, kind of like the way that people could say like the original Star Wars, you could end there could be no Star Wars sequel ever and Star Wars is still great. Empire Strikes Back I like even more than the original, but you can't end the story on Empire Strikes Back. This is like that version of that here, where this is very much a middle chapter to Fire and Ash coming out. So, and of course we should clarify to anyone listening in the future that we are recording this episode before we see Fire and Ash. So yeah, that can affect the way we talk about it. But
and it's very interesting because James Cameron has come out to say these movies cost a lot of money to make and you have to make even more to make the next one. So if these movies don't make enough money, this could very well be the last film in the saga. I know Sam Worthington was interviewed and he goes, I've always kind of viewed this one as the last one.
I don't know. In terms of like other movies that don't have sequels yet, that have not had any sequels, Heat 2 is the one that's like being talked about now as like a very big gap of time between the first movie. I'm curious how Heat 2 will even work. I've heard like, separate timelines, like before both prequel and sequel. I don't know. Very curious. I think Michael Mann is doing it. I mean, it's the same creative creative
I
team
heard
behind it.
Leo is signed on for it.
Yeah,
Leo
Leo's
is signed on for
attached,
it.
I
You know,
think.
if it gets made, I guess. I mean, and that's the thing. It's not even guaranteed to get made. It's just there's a lot of momentum on it, so we'll see. But Corey, you also listed Mad Max here. Is like on this topic, and
Yeah,
I
but
think
now
if we're
hearing
talking
more about
strictly
it, I don't know
about-
if that fits.
yeah, I mean, if we're talking, I guess
it's more of a reboot.
yeah, but if we're going off of Fury Road, which is like Mad Max 4, but pretty much a reboot. Furiosa, that was such a big, it's a big franchise action movie that you would have made a lot of money. You'd assume they would get a sequel, and everyone just assumed there'd be a sequel, but it took so long to come that people, like kind of the same way here, where everyone assumed there'd be an Avatar sequel. And it always was, yeah, we're going to do it. It was just taking so long to get made for different reasons. And then very different outcomes financially. But I think they both lived up to their legacies creatively. And I'll even say this. I think Furiosa, which, you know, prequel, not a sequel, so that's also one difference. Furiosa, I think, is a better movie overall than Way of Water. But Way of Water made a ton of money. So the delay did not sap any enthusiasm for it. And that was the other bet that I kind of mentioned in the last Avatar episode that with Enemy of the Pod Adam. Even once they, you know, we clarified that this movie was coming out, he was skeptical that it would have the same or similar enough impact. The bet was officially, he said it would not make half of what the first one made. And I bet that it would, obviously. And it did. This was one of the highest grossing movies of all time. The world was like, even though there was, you know, the quote unquote zero cultural impact, people were ready to go back to Pandora. So like that, the wait did not kill people's interest in Avatar. I don't know. Maybe it heightened it even. I don't know. After that long of a wait, I don't know. I think if this movie came, if all other things being the same about this movie, everything else being the same, if it came out in 2013 versus 2009, it probably still makes this much money. You know, I don't think the wait helped it, but it clearly didn't hurt it.
Yeah. So I was looking at, I thought this was a pretty interesting question. So I looked up, what do you guys think is the longest waited sequel of all time? And I have some hints here for you, if you can guess the franchise.
There's one that's like 80 years or something.
No, the one I looked up, it was 59 years.
Okay.
And is it really a sequel, or is it like...
It is literally called, it's the name of the first one, 2.
Can we get a hint? Director, writer?
First movie came out in 1942. Second movie came out in 2006. I have some more hints. We can keep going.
Yeah,
it is an animated movie.
Oh, I was gonna say Fantasia, but Fantasia didn't come out.
Fantasia 2000?
It's not Fantasia.
An animated
movie. The second one was not very well received.
Jungle Book 2?
Didn't get horrible reviews. No. It is on Disney Plus. Both Disney movies. Very, very famous Disney movies.
Can you sing us the song?
No, probably.
Just no.
Bambi. Bambi to Bambi 2 is the longest waited sequel of all time as currently constructed. It is the longest waited sequel of all time. But I had some other, Zach, you mentioned Heat 2 coming out. Like, is that even necessary? Is it something that we want? I thought of some standalone movies right now that I would want a sequel for. The number one movie that I would put on my list is Interstellar.
I don't need a sequel to Interstellar.
I think an Interstellar 2 would be very, very interesting, where they're moving, like, it's the same, like, not the same people. Doesn't even have to be Matthew. I guess if it's a sequel, then yeah, it would be Matthew McConaughey. But Matthew McConaughey maybe finding Anne Hathaway, or like maybe he's, I don't know. I think an Interstellar 2 would be very, very cool. Cole?
Oh God, I can't really think of one that like.
Let me read you some.
Yeah,
that
that'd
I saw.
be fun.
I don't know. So Ready Player One was one that popped up. I don't know if I'd want that.
I don't need a Ready Player 2 just because
I have heard talk about it.
I've definitely heard that, but I've also heard Spielberg isn't willing to do it because while he did enjoy the first one, he said outside of Jaws, and I think he said Saving Private Ryan, that was his hardest film he ever had to direct. So
another one that I put on there that I'm not sure, but I think would be cool was Edge of Tomorrow with Tom Cruise.
I've heard talks about that one too.
I like that movie's really good, so I think the concept of that would be fun.
That's one where I would be happy to see those characters again, but I also think I think the ending to that movie is so perfect. Like her getting up, saying the thing she said to him probably 100,000 times. Like do I have something on my face, soldier? Like, I think that's perfect. But
Yeah,
yes,
that's a good one left alone, I think. But that would be an interesting one because I think the characters would fit it. Zach, you wrote one down. Do you want to share?
Yeah, so like the first thing I gravitated towards, and this was only a prompt I thought of like right when we started recording. So if I had more time to think of it, then I probably would come up with a different answer. But the first person I think of, assuming the same creative team, is like every Tarantino movie doesn't have a sequel, at least not until like the Once Upon a Time in Hollywood sequel coming out. But that's not Tarantino. I mean, he wrote it, but he's not directing it. Kill Bill relevant in theaters right now as the whole bloody affair where they put it together as one movie, which is how he wrote it, designed it initially. I think splitting it into two movies, Volume 1, Volume 2, is for the best. And I love both of those individual chapters, and I love them as a whole, like, put together. I think, so I'm kind of cheating here by saying if a Kill Bill follow-up, because he did cut it in half, but I would love to. I think if I would trust Quentin Tarantino to make a sequel to Kill Bill and not have it negate how much I love the first one. I don't think it would undercut the first one at all. They always talk about like that daughter.
Guy myself.
What'd you say?
I said not a huge Quentin guy myself at the moment, but
yeah, he's being a little mean. I don't know why.
He's being a dick.
Yeah,
out of nowhere. He attacked your guy Matthew Lillard.
Yeah, why did Matthew Lillard caught like a savage stray there? All the other guys are like big names. Matthew Lillard's the one guy with like a cult following, and
I
his
just
like
don't like him.
I don't really get it. I don't know why he did that.
It's not a Kanye track.
Matthew Lillard, what he said about it too, he goes, obviously my fans love my movies, but it's humbling and it hurts. Like, I'm like, dude, come on.
Yeah. I don't know. That's ridiculous.
Sorry, Zach, not to interrupt. Keep going though.
Well, so maybe even if they announced like a Django 2, I'd still probably be pretty. I would, because you can go anywhere with that character, so like that would still be
what.
That would still be cool.
Wasn't the original draft for the Hateful Eight rumored to have been a Django sequel?
It was a stage play originally. I don't know.
Which you can definitely tell when you're watching the movie.
That's fine. I mean, it still works, but yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't heard that Django thing specifically. It wouldn't shock me. It is a bounty hunter, story. So that checks out. Hateful Eight Christmas movie. I think do a rewatch for that one. Definitely do a rewatch. Looking forward to that. Yeah, so I'd probably have a different answer on a different day, but yeah, my head initially went to just Tarantino movies, which all don't have sequels. So I would be interested in watching one of those. On the topic of the movie, and then we talked about this last week when we were talking about the Netflix thing. Like, some movies, like you don't want to downgrade the theatrical experience. I'm a big believer in the theatrical experience. I think movies are better in the theaters. Some movies, the difference between theaters and at home is minimal. Knives Out does get away with it. I do think they're better in the theater. And there are certain movies that maybe I even would say are better at home, but not because of, bigger screen means worse. But sometimes I think watching a movie by yourself actually makes it more effective. I think like Blair Witch Project, I think watching that by myself in my apartment made it scarier than if I saw it in theaters with people. Sometimes feeling alone can help an experience like that. Avatar, not that. If I saw Avengers Endgame, like we were just talking about, by myself at home for the first time, not the same experience. Seeing it with a crowd, seeing it with, bigger screen, bigger speakers, all that can help, intercept people who make big movies like James Cameron, Christopher Nolan, George Miller. We're talking about like Furiosa. Like these things are better with the bigger scale is better on a bigger screen with bigger speakers. In Avatar, even more so. I'm not a 3D person in general. I think Avatar movies are the only movies that I will I'll see in 3D. Yeah.
You're going to see Fire and Ash in 3D?
Yeah. I already have my 3D tickets. Yeah. I did the same thing with Way of Water.
Interesting. Cole, you going to see Fire and Ash in 3D?
Yeah, definitely.
Because I trust James Cameron because he put it, he emphasizes it. He's like, this is how it's made. This is what it's made for.
Okay.
So I mean, like,
Maybe
you know,
I'll
it's
see it in 3D.
world immersion, all that. I will do as much to enhance that experience as I can. So I'm seeing it IMAX 3D opening night.
Let me text Jake Thompson.
Yeah. Dude, I'm amped about it.
Let me get these 3D tickets.
Yeah. I got like it was the most bizarre thing. Small little sidetrack here. I waited too long to get tickets, and when I checked, opening night that Thursday, because it comes out right before I go back to St. Louis, so I could only see it that Thursday, that opening Thursday, and I waited too long to look. And all the tickets for all the IMAX screenings that night were like front row, really up close, really far to the side. Not how I want to see this movie for the first time. And then AMC Burbank, and suspiciously perfect. Full theater, middle for 4 seats together, and the center left open. Almost felt like a trap, like I'm Chewbacca on Endor, and I'm gonna try to get those seats, and my leg's gonna get yanked into the air. Like, it's the most bizarre thing. So I mean, obviously, what happened is some group of 4 had those seats and just canceled them, like for whatever reason.
Yeah,
and that's why those 4 were left.
It was like a double date.
Yeah,
it was like
something
a double
like
date,
that.
and one of the couples broke up.
So yeah, me and a couple friends, we got those. Huge.
Nice.
Yeah, really.
That's exciting.
Yeah, so it's like perfect.
Happy for you and your friends.
I mean, like the only good seats left for an IMAX screening in the LA area. Like completely everything is sold out. And it's at like perfect time, like 6:15. It's angelic. It's incredible. Yeah. Oh, you're done. Oh, you're done. Yeah. So that was a sidetrack. Don't worry about it. So this is a movie completely built for the big screen. Avatar 2, first Avatar kind of was as well, which is, maybe that goes into the cultural impact thing, is people don't want to watch Avatar at home, and it just loses the magic. So, like, how do we define a theater movie? And does Avatar 2 work when watching it at home?
I mean, I'm not going to say I get that feeling of like chills down my spine when it's like hard cut opening shot of the Hallelujah Mountains, because obviously going back into the theater as an adult, mind you, this film came out in 2009. We were in 3rd grade. The original Avatar came out in 2009, and we were all in like...
Speak for yourself.
Oh, Corey's a smart boy. But that being said, I mean, yeah, that opening shot of the Hallelujah Mountains, and I'm back in Pandora for the first time since I was legitimately a kid, hits harder in theaters than it would if I'm watching this for the first time at home and they do the hard cut there. That's not going to work. I mean, it's not going to work the way that the director wants it to. It's not going to work the way the studio wants it to. A theater movie is a movie that the first time you see it, if you don't see it in theaters, you've seen it wrong.
Ooh.
That's how I define a theater movie.
Hell of a statement there, Cole. I liked that a lot. You've seen it wrong.
Because you've seen it wrong. Like, there are movies...
Very, very gatekeeping of you, though.
No, but gaslight, gatekeep, girl boss. Okay?
I mean, but then he's right, though, because it's just, at the end of the day, it's like, you're not shaming someone, but it's just like, there's no way that you can be like, I watch it like this. I watch it at home on my phone. Therefore, I saw it how it should have been seen. Like, if something's designed a certain way, then watching it in that context is the right way to watch it. Now, you can choose not to. Just don't be upset that it's not like you had a different experience than others. If someone else likes it more because they saw it how it was designed, I don't think you can be like, well, I mean, obviously everyone can have their opinion, but I think taking how it's supposed to be viewed into account is important when looking at certain pieces of art. And now a separate conversation could be the best movies are good regardless of how you see it. And that is a different conversation. And I do agree with that. But I think in its natural state, Avatar movies in their natural state is in the theater, and if you don't watch it in their natural state, then yeah, you're gonna feel differently about it.
Okay, so I kind of want to connect this, and it kind of go in a roundabout way, and I apologize. But we're gonna take a second to get there.
Roundabout.
Well, you guys talk about a theater movie, and my first gut reaction was like the Supreme Court's ruling on pornography. I know it when I see it, and I don't know if there's necessarily a specific way of saying this makes it a theater movie.
Someone.
Well, I used to say that about the sauce.
That is from the Supreme Court.
Yeah, but we've talked about that statement before with like, oh, like
Yes.
a movie with or without the sauce.
I know when I see it.
Yeah.
And I think a theater movie kind of falls into the same thing. And you guys were talking about if you've seen it, if you haven't seen it in the theater for the first time, then you've seen it wrong. You know, on the social media, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, I get a lot of comedians in my feed. I get a lot of like jokes, people joking around, yucking it up. And there was one comedian that I really enjoyed. Haven't seen him in person, but I really enjoyed him. And he was on a podcast. And so I listened to the podcast and someone asked him like, oh, why did you post your entire special on YouTube instead of like, isn't that going to cause less people to come see you? And he said, no, because it's meant to be seen in person. And if you watch it on YouTube, like on your phone, that comes across. And I actually increased my ticket price. Like I was able to like increase ticket sales because that I released it on YouTube first. And so I'm not advocating for things to be released on streaming first or anything like that. But I think if you downplay it, I think right now the industry is in a very interesting spot because you have like a theatrical run that is for like 3 weeks, 2 months, whatever it is. I don't know. It depends on the movie, but it's in there.
Like 30 days is now the standard before it gets released.
It's
on
only in the
demand.
theaters for so long, and people are basing whether or not they want to see it in theaters based on, did I like it, the trailer? Is there enough hype for it? Is this something that I've seen enough commercials for that this is the holiday movie of the year? You know, like something like that. Did I see enough of that? When I think instead they should be saying, like, because I've seen movies like The Dark Knight. I would love to see that movie in theaters. I did not see it in theaters, and now it feels like I won't be able to until it's like the Alamo does we're doing a show, you know, like we're doing like, here's these three, we're celebrating its 20th anniversary. I don't know, whatever, 10-year anniversary. I don't know. It feels like that's the only way I could see that movie in theaters, when in reality, me seeing it on the television, like on TV, seeing it at home and it being a good experience makes me want to go to the theater more to see that movie. And maybe that's more of like, it's going to affect movies that come after it. And it's like, if you liked The Dark Knight, you're going to love this movie. And it's like, oh, well, that maybe I will see that in theaters. So I think right now we're at a point where we've talked about it with like what is going to be in theaters. Is Netflix ruining that whole thing? I don't think so, because I think honestly, yes, there are movies that aren't meant to be seen in theaters, but seeing it at home doesn't necessarily ruin that aspect of it. Doesn't really necessarily ruin the movie. Like I think Top Gun Maverick is meant to be seen in theaters.
Mm-hmm.
It's loud, it's in your face, it looks incredible. The gravity of it you could really feel when you're in theaters.
I mean, Tom has a message before the movie where he says this is the way it's meant to be seen.
But when I watch it at home, I still get the thrill of watching it.
Well, you know, Corey, you're dancing on it because I agree with you. And if I'm going to cut you off really briefly there, because I feel like
no, go ahead.
I'm positive on this movie, and I'm positive on the theatrical experience, and maybe that's why I come across like, I mean, you know, you're doing it a disservice by not watching it in the theaters. But you are right that there are certain movies that are good enough to, you know, yes, it's probably a teeny bit better in theaters, and if it's still good outside of theaters, then it's a great, great movie.
Like Mad Max Fury Road for me is
Sure.
that movie.
This morning was my first time watching Way of Water not in a theater. I saw it twice when it initially went to theaters, and I saw it again when they re-released it in IMAX 3D like a month and a half ago. I went and saw it again in theaters then. And each time I was like blown away. I watched it at home today, and I'm like, I'm still enjoying this narrative. And the moments that are like really like powerful, like action moments or really dramatic moments, they're still good. They're still good at home. But like the things that aren't as interesting watching at home are like the world building time that we do of like, or just the exploration of the ocean, you know, like really pretty. It is narratively light in those moments. And it's just, the experience is not the same watching it just on your TV. And I don't hold it. I mean, in a way I do, because, you know, I really do like the indulgence here. I really do like feeling that, okay, I'm going to do this because I can, and I think it's cool, so I'm going to leave it in the movie. I like that mindset. We talked about that with like George Lucas with some of the prequel stuff. Like I'm more forgiving of flaws in the prequels because I feel the passion behind it. You can definitely feel the passion here in this movie with James Cameron. And like the amount of detail in the ecosystem again. Like, and we're not settling for just like sticking in the same area of Pandora that we were on the first movie. We're going to a whole new area, a whole new culture of Na'vi, and we're learning this whole new way of life here, the titular way of water. And the movie,
Yeah, water.
it really is like in that middle section of the movie, the narrative slows down a lot. And it's that middle section that does not hold up as well at home. I don't think it's bad, but I think that is the section that is made specifically for the theater experience, where I'm more forgiving of it because it is so cool on a big screen. Like the detail is just astounding. Like it's absurd how good it looks. But once you've done that and you're watching it at home, it doesn't have that same weight. Like I think another example, I think, because we were maybe considering talking about this with the first Avatar, but it works here too. Like the movie Gravity. I have not seen that since theaters. I haven't really wanted to, because that was such a cool theater experience type of movie. I think we were like,
I've only seen that outside of the theater.
Zach took me to see that for, I think it was my 15th birthday. I don't know. And then we ate at CC's Pizza.
that checks out, kind of. Yeah, that makes sense.
Your mommy paid
Yeah,
for
I'm
it.
sure I didn't really pay for any of that.
Hi, Beth. You don't listen, but hi.
Yeah. So, I mean, yeah, Corey, I that's why I don't think Way of Water is a classic movie, but I understand what James Cameron was trying to do here. And I'm okay with that middle section, because I respect that it was made for a certain type of, it was made for that theatrical experience. So I'm okay with it.
I have a feeling that James Cameron is taking the approach to Avatar the Saga as he did with Sam Worthington as a main character, where he's like the movie, Pandora is the star of the movie, not Sam Worthington, not Jake Sully. So I don't want a movie star. I have a feeling, I've heard that Fire and Ash is the best of the three. I think some people might say Avatar might be a classic. I have a feeling things are going to go down where the franchise is a classic, but not one movie is like a must-see movie. And I think this kind of goes with what you're saying, with like, because of watching it at home, you miss some of that stuff. I still got like the wonder and like, wow, this is so, I still thought it was really cool watching it at home. I didn't necessarily think like, oh, I'm not sold on it. Maybe that's because I did see it in theaters, and so I can connect it back to how I felt then. And so maybe that's something in me personally and not what every audience member can do. Just because I'm a little bit more acutely attuned to how how directors want to be perceived. And, I'm a little bit more critical, have a better eye than most audience members. Just kind of tooting my own horn there. But I think TV is in a place, like personal TVs are in a good place, that kind of stuff. If you have a good enough TV, I think it comes across. So I think that you can still get that benefit of it, even if you don't see it in theaters, because people that are born now and watch it when they're 15, like I think watching it on their TV when they're 15, I think TVs are going to be in a place that's like, whoa, this is incredible. And I think they're going to get just as much enjoyment. But I mean, that's still into the future there a little bit. But we can move on. We've talked about it a lot.
Been talking about legacy sequels, how to watch this movie. Let's get into the movie.
Well, I think it's kind of reflective of the movie, because there isn't a whole lot story-wise besides Wailing's bad and like
Wailing
meeting the
is
children.
bad.
Well, I mean, if you want to make it political,
meeting the children.
No, meeting the children.
Well,
I think the first thing I wanted to talk about with the movie was the time jump.
That's good.
Like we're immediately thrown back into the movie, or thrown back into the world. I think it starts you right where they were when they left off, and then it kind of like flows through. You see the characters or the kids being born, meeting all the new characters, and then it's like, this is kind of what life has been. We've moved on. We're not like, it was a war of people, and we're still fighting the fight, but this is life now. We're having a family. We're living in this community, and I think everything was actually peaceful until they do that. And then they landed, and that was 1 year ago.
Ooh,
and then that's when
that
they move
sequence
into the
is done
That
really
is
well.
brutal, because we didn't see that in the first movie. When
Them
we
landing?
get there, when we get there with Jake, and it's like, there isn't a lot of color in the. We don't assume that when they landed, they basically took out what looked like probably the size of Rhode Island on Pandora. They just destroyed that land, and it wasn't even like a second thought. It was the devastation alone as you see all these animals flying away and fire engulfs them. Like, it is pure destruction from the get-go, and the scale is so big from the get-go.
Yeah, get-go.
Get-go.
Yeah,
It is.
it's yeah, that's violent, and it makes you, you're right, you're so back. We're so back at that point. Like, yep, Avatar is beautiful, and man, these humans are mean.
We're destroying.
Pandora's
we're destroying the
beautiful, and
forest.
we're
so
destroying
bad,
it, and we're gonna hate the humans for it. Like we're right back on schedule.
Are they too hard on corporations in this movie?
So yeah, the family, the time jump
corporations
allows us to
bad.
be, we're finding our characters in a different spot, which I like it when a sequel does that. Like, we're like their parents now. That is with not just one child, but a lot of them. And we're watching Jake be a father, which is a different version of him from the first movie, which I like. I like Jake a lot in this movie. I like him more in this movie than I do in the last one. This is just, I think Sam Worthington is really good here. And Neytiri is still a cool character, and Zoe Saldana is still really good. But the thing is, because we've added these children character and we're giving them a lot of screen time, and we're building out the world again because we shift environments, so we have to build it out again and learn all this stuff again. We do lose. It becomes more of an ensemble, and I think Neytiri is unfortunately the character that gets the short end of the stick narratively in this movie. Zoe Saldana, like I said, great in the moments that she has, but she's my favorite character from the first movie, and she's so sidelined narratively here. We don't really have to. There's a solid chunk of the movie where we do not see her in that middle section. We barely get anything from her in that middle hour. Now, when the action kicks back up again at the end, she's awesome. But I think this movie does really miss her in the middle part of it. And I think that's part of why it's not quite as good as the first one for me.
I can agree with you there. And you can say it's because we're focusing on the kids and we barely see Jake in those moments, because the one thing he's doing to adapt to being a member of the Metkayina is learning to ride one of their new, horse dragon things. But overall, Neytiri, she's written into the script like she's not needed. She's really not for the narrative to progress, because the narrative is about the children. It's about, Loak, who is our, mirror version of Jake, this outcast Na'vi kid learning to kind of be a different version of the Na'vi. And I think it's okay that she's not there. That being said, I do miss her character, because their dynamic in the first movie is what makes you fall in love with these movies and what's going on this planet, because you fall in love with those characters. And Zoe Saldana is a phenomenal actress. That being said, she isn't. You're right, Zach. She's missed, but is she really needed?
When you have a good actress that can carry a movie on her own, yes, she is needed. And if you are not using her, I think that is a mistake on your part.
Yeah, I think she's not. Cole, you're right. She's not needed for this narrative that James Cameron has laid out. But I think that's the flaw, is that you didn't hinge the narrative on this strong of a character that you had.
Your Oscar-winning actress.
You hinged it instead.
Yes.
Even not really on Jake as much. You hinged it more on the children, which obviously you have Sigourney Weaver. And I don't know, that also becomes a question, is does, Sigourney, Kiri's connection with Awa, that stuff's interesting. I'm curious about that. And I like all that. That's the cool, weird stuff, that sci-fi, Pandora, planet stuff. I enjoy that. So, in a vacuum, I like it. It's just, is that stuff and the Loak stuff, is that as interesting as watching Jake and Neytiri's relationship, or as parents deal with this change? That drama? Probably not. But it's, you got to expand the world somehow. But someone gets the short end of the stick, and unfortunately, it's Neytiri. Even we're really only focusing on those middle two kids. Neteyam really doesn't get much to do as like a character, and that's why his death at the end, it makes sense. I was shocked by it. I'm glad they did it. That kind of,
it didn't make sense.
It does.
It
does make sense to kill him.
Okay, I was gonna say that probably made the most sense that he was gonna die.
Yeah, and I was shocked by it. I didn't think they would do that, and I think I don't want to say saves the movie, because it still would have been a good movie without his death. But that is the thing that
killing children okay in Zach's.
For movies, yeah, absolutely. It really, like, it did kind of kick the narrative up a lot more in the last bit there. I think that does add a lot of weight to the climax. So yeah, I'm glad they did. That was good. And then Took, she's a child, so we really can't do much with her either. But yeah, I don't know. It's just like we're expanding the world, but does that spread the more intimate personal narratives too thin? I don't know. Like I think that's probably why I'm not quite as invested in the characters as I was in the first one, because we are focusing so much on Jake and Natiri. Now, the flip of that is Quaritch is back in this movie, and I think at first when they're like, "Oh, Stephen Lang's back in the sequels," it's like, we just can't let that death be final. Like, but I'll eat my words. He might be like my favorite part of this movie. I mean, he's again really charismatic, and he gets to do something new because he's the same character, but he's not. And that moment where he like picks up his human skull and crushes it in his hand is like such great visual storytelling for where his head's at, as he's now, a member of he's in a Na'vi body, but he's actively trying to sabotage that species. But he doesn't get to be like, oh, I'm still human, I'm just in this body. He doesn't have a human body anymore. He's not going in and out. This is not like an avatar.
He's dead.
This is him. This is all he is for the rest of his existence.
Well, there's a unique thing they do where Quaritch himself, they have the video that he's recording.
Yeah, that's good
that like mirrors Jake's first recording. And he's talking to his recombinant body, right? But
body.
I think so. But he doesn't like to him like as himself. He refers to him as a completely different person. His exact phrasing is, "You're recom now, Colonel." Like, he refers to him as Colonel with his memories and his personality.
I mean, he literally even says, "I'm not that man." So yeah, I mean, he says that to Spider, "I'm not that man." It's like that's
yeah. So there is this sort of, you are this person, but you aren't this person.
It's an identity crisis.
Yeah, it definitely also brings in a very interesting question about like who you are and like what you're made up of. Are you who, like your body, and that are you your memories? Because I mean, that kind of it brings up those questions because we do see almost a different character with Spider than we met in the first movies, but we never really got to see that side of him in the first movie. So it's like, it's hard to know if that's how he would have reacted. Like we never saw him react with anyone that he loved, and obviously he does feel some sort of connection for Spider, or Miles, I believe is the name that Quaritch gave him.
Yeah, because it's his name. He gave him his name.
But he said, "My name is Spider."
Yeah,
but it's very, we never got to see that side of him in the first one, so it is very like, is this him? We still don't know. Like I think you are made to believe that this is a different character and like played by the same actor, but overall this is a different character, different motivations. He is maybe not as ruthless or whatever, even though he's trying to be. So I don't know. I think it raises a very interesting question. I think a lot of the sci-fi stuff that I really enjoy does that kind of thing, and I think this is the space for it. So I think it's using its platform very well, and it's using this like what it is in a very like cohesive way. Like that's what it's supposed to be used. That's what sci-fi is supposed to do. It's supposed to ask these questions, and so I like that it's doing that. And I don't really know if we have an answer to that, but.
I agree, Corey, but I also think there's unique scenes where he does give this like, it's saying a lot without saying a lot. Like when he first, when he hears the last name Socorro, you can see on his face, like he immediately knows like it's his son. And when he's being tortured, he stops it and is the one to be like, yeah, let me try talking to him. But there's also this willingness that he has to not see this character who, yeah, it's technically it's not his son because that's not him. But it's also like, there's a deep emotionality to the performance I think Stephen Lang gives across when it's like the last moment and Spider like hisses at him and he's like screaming at him to come back.
Yeah, it definitely gives your villain something. It makes him even more interesting. And I don't think it doesn't cheapen the death in the last movie, but it is like we talked to, one of you guys said like this is, James Cameron refers to this as a saga. Keeping the same villain, like quote unquote the same villain throughout, growing with this family now of characters. I think whether he's in 4 and 5, if those get made, I don't know. But at least through Fire and Ash, knowing that he comes back in Fire and Ash, I think that I'm more excited going into Fire and Ash because it is him as the villain. If it was like, okay, Fire and Ash is all about this new tribal leader, and she's the main villain of Fire and Ash, and we're just meeting a whole new villain. I'm still excited for the movie, obviously, but it's just I love where they're going with this character. So it like with Quaritch, like I love having him back. Excited to watch more of him, and I think I'm more excited for this movie because they developed him so much and made him such a prominent part of this narrative in this movie. And it's consistent with the family themes too. Like you said, him and Spider. It's an interesting dynamic. Now, do I wish Spider was maybe a bit more interesting of a character? Yeah, probably. I mean, in terms of like the new human characters between him and Edie Falco, maybe could have had a bit more personality, especially in the latter. I think she's whatever her name is, and I don't know. That is about respectfully about as flat of a character as it gets. Who?
Edie Falco. She's the general.
Frances
Here, let me
Ardmore.
look it
up.
That is a nothing character. If
When
I've
you
ever
meet her,
seen one.
she's boxing in that robot suit.
That was about the most underdeveloped character in the movie, for sure. Not that she has to be,
wasn't really in it
the
in the
most
second
deep,
half.
but there's just no personality there. It is just not a lot.
Was she even on the boat at the very end? I have a feeling she's going to be more in this one.
Right.
She's
Again, it's her personality. She just doesn't. There's just nothing there. And maybe there's something in the new
That's
one
fair.
that makes it interesting. But
I was
There
going to
was
say,
some-
I think this one, when it came out, like when we met all the kids, I think one of the criticisms that I heard that the kids didn't really get too much of, but like we don't really know the kids too well. And I think my argument for that, because I was like, you know what, maybe not, but it didn't really bother me too much. We know, and we are getting guaranteed movies down the line. Like I think we're like up until 5. And so I think what they're doing is taking their time with these kids and like developing them slowly and like making it this kind of a slow burn instead of like, here it is. Is that going to work for them? I don't know. We'll see. It didn't really bother me in this one. I think if they still take their time and there's still a lot to be discovered about all of them, which, I mean, we're down one now, so it makes it a little bit easier narratively. But
that helps. Now, on the topic of the kids, did Sigourney Weaver's 70-year-old voice, did you bump with that at all with her as a teenager in this movie?
I did, but I also thought, okay, Cameron's gonna explain this at some point, like why she sounds exactly like old ass Sigourney Weaver.
I don't think. Well, no, it's not that. I think she just sounds like her because it's her daughter. That's not. I don't think it's gonna be like, why do I sound 70? Like that's never gonna be a line of dialogue in the movie. It's just.
But I'm never gonna knock it because I actually like the performance that she gives.
Yeah.
As Kiri, I think like even her relationship with Jake, she is able to play that like confused teenage girl very well when they're just sitting there and like she's trying to explain how she can hear Awa's heartbeat. So no, I'm not like, I'm going to be like, why does she sound 70? But at the same time, I'm not going to let it take me out because this movie is about the visuals and they still look phenomenal.
I think I'm okay with her sounding a bit, I'm okay with that weird mental disparity between voice and then like age of character.
Didn't really bother me.
It's not that egregious, but like Sigourney Weaver still does a good job of trying to make this seem like a teenager, but like she's already a weird kid. Yeah. She's supposed to be a weird kid. Her whole existence is kind of odd given like, she was born from, a dead woman's avatar body. Probably something to do with like the way that they connected. They tried to like move her into, her avatar permanently after she got shot in the first one. I'm assuming a lot of it comes from whatever weird Awa connection she has. It's probably from that, we'll see where they go with that. But it's interesting. So yeah. Oh, you like that, Corey?
I like that.
Oh, okay.
I didn't connect that.
Yeah, I wasn't thinking like, she got knocked up by another Avatar guy or another Na'vi while she was in.
I honestly thought that's what it was.
No, it was definitely.
I think it's the Awa little ritual that they tried that didn't work, or did it, type of thing. So
she's like, I'm with her, Jake. She's here.
Talking about Awa, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So obviously it's like a weird reincarnation type deal.
Well, don't say obviously.
Obviously, Corey didn't get it, so it's obvious.
And then
I will say-
Loak's thing with the what's his name?
Rhea, I think, is what they
Payukan.
Payukan.
That's definitely something that slows down the overall narrative momentum, and it pays off at the end because I like when the whale goes crazy, goes stupid on those humans at the end. That's fun. That's pretty hype. But it does, that's why this movie is kind of slow. I love the idea though, and I do love the idea of this super, super smart whale species. And they're like, like the brother-sister soul bond with like the Metkayina. That's all nice and stuff. And it adds weight to like their deaths later and how sad that is.
But there's also like the detail that they have like rich history songs, and they have more neurons than like the human brain.
Sure. Yeah, all that stuff's cool. In a vacuum, narratively, momentum, pacing wise, it does sag the movie. But I can't say that I don't really appreciate the whole super smart whale concept that we're playing around with here. I enjoy Payukan
Maybe
as
we'll
a
get
can.
more of that though.
Payukan as a character. I really enjoy him. So I'm
You enjoy him as a can? Do you guys got anything else? I feel like there isn't really a lot to talk
that's the
about.
thing. It's just
with
well, I
this
mean, because
movie.
you know what?
Well, you wanted us to
This
talk
movie
about
is
it. You were
just-
like, let's get to the movie.
Well, obviously we've been kind of inferring it.
because I
This
wanted
movie does look incredible. I do think this is.
this movie.
I'm assuming Fire and Ash will
But there's
surpass
other
it in this
scenes-
way.
in the
but
first
But this
one.
movie is, I think, the best looking movie visual effects wise, like ever.
I heard they actually filmed Fire and Ash in a volcano. Is that right?
Probably not, but I can't wait to find out.
I think Sam Worthington
I
did a
heard
lava dip.
Sam Worthington burned alive.
He's dead.
Is
I
that
heard he's
right?
dead.
I think it's called a lava dip. I think that's what it is, where he swims in lava. On to the awards season.
Apparently they strayed off course, and we're fairly certain they're in guerrilla hands.
So why don't you use the regular army? What do you need us for?
Because some damn fool accused you of being the best.
I go first, right? I go first.
Cole, you decided you would go first, so I guess you can.
You went first on the first movie. Zach went first on
Just
the last episode we did. I'm going to go Stephen Lang. I think he is by far and away the best performance in this movie. There's a depth that he gives to this whole like inner turmoil that his character is going through that's never actually stated, which is why I love the performance. He's also just badass in every sense of the word. That line where he's like trying to incite Jake, and when Jake gives probably the most also badass response where he's like, I'm coming for you, and when I do, I'll kill your whole family. I hate him, but I also would love to see more of him. So Stephen Lang is my MVP for Avatar. Wow.
I'll accept. I'm going to allow that. Go ahead, Corey.
Oh, okay. My MVP is going to be, it's another double. I had a double in the last episode, but it's Dylan Cole and Ben Proctor as the main production designers. I think everything we talked about with the first one, the reason we went so long with the first one is because Pandora is just gorgeous. And I think this one, it's the exact same way. Like, even if it does look better in theaters, I still think the beauty of the planet comes across at home. I think it comes across no matter where you watch it. Like, the whole thing looks so good. And it really is the star of this one because narratively, this one doesn't really do a ton. So the production designers, Dylan Cole and Ben Proctor, are my MVP.
My MVP, hot take here, James Cameron. So, this is a very James
fair.
Cameron movie. We talked about, obviously, the time he took. James Cameron took his time to get this movie out, and I think it shows. It's because he wanted to get the effects right. Like I said, this movie's just mind blowing when you're watching it, and theater movie, because watching it on the big screen, it's just I've never just been more blown away, visual effects wise, than I was with this movie. This is the top of the mountain for me in that regard. And that's just all James Cameron's dedication and like his involvement in the craft and taking the time to make sure he gets it right. The eccentricities he got with the world building. Get all the whale stuff. Like I was saying, like it's indulgent, but I think you don't get. He does big better than anyone, and you don't get big movies without some self indulgences. And sometimes that slows down the pacing, but overall, I'll take this movie as a James Cameron movie, warts and all, rather than made by literally anybody else. I think he's the only one to make this movie the way it is and as good as it is. Just I don't know. In that sense, yeah. So he's my MVP here. This is, and you know what? He loves water. He loves water. And, this had some shots of
Whole
like,
thing's just wet.
he likes to show things flooding and just how scary that can be. Like, the different shots of like the different submersibles or the whaling ship, flooding. He nails those shots. Cole and I, like I said on the last episode, we rewatched Titanic recently. He's really good at it there. The Abyss, very wet movie. Either way, he loves
everything's just
the
wet.
water. He loves going underwater. And this movie is literally, obviously, The Way of Water. It really just might be the most James Cameron movie he's ever made.
On to the review section.
Says that they insist on outside opinions.
What kind of opinions?
Well, your kind, not to put too fine a point on it. I mean, let's face it, in your particular field, you're the top minds.
Cool.
Back to Pandora. Come hang with the Metkayina, ride the beautifully bodacious waves, and protect the majestic Tulkun. 4 out of 5. Really wanted to say beautifully bodacious.
All right, Corey, I'm going to text you your line, Corey. It's a call and response. All right.
Okay.
This is what you said.
Waiting. All right. Is it going to be obvious when I say it?
And where
Are you ready,
where
Corey?
do I
Did you
put
get your
my
line?
feed?
Go ahead.
When am I saying it? I'm saying it now.
Mm-hmm.
What was James Cameron doing with this movie?
It was Grease. He showed off splashing around.
Zach.
My all-time favorite lyric.
You have, Zach, you used to overanalyze that one quite a bit.
Just picture it. He was showing
What's your
off.
rating?
Oh, yeah. I forgot that's what we do here.
What's your
3.75 out of 5.
Nice. Here's mine. Everyone knows a healthy franchise that will stand the test of time has a sequel bringing awareness to the horrors of whaling. Of course, this and Star Trek. 4 out of 5.
Be Star Trek 4, The Voyage
Yeah,
Home.
don't they go back to save those whales?
I think they go back and end up saving whales. I think that's what it is. I don't think they go back to save whales. On to the post-credit scene.
You're still here. It's over. Go home.
Next up, we have, I believe the next one in the series is going to be Wake Up Dead Man, A Knives Out Mystery, which, as we mentioned last time, is currently in theaters, but it will come out on Netflix December 12th. So that probably would be a better option for the next one. I don't know if it will still be in theaters after December 12th, but go check it out in theaters if you can. Fire and Ash comes out in theaters December 19th. December 10th. Go check it out. We will definitely be checking it out, and then we will be back here talking about it for you. But we already kind of talked about what we've been watching in the last one. Cole, you did not get to go.
Let
you
Cole
had,
do that.
You had to step away. So if you would like to talk about what you've been watching, and then sign off.
Just have 3 things. Wicked for Good.
Just did that.
Was not as high on Wicked for Good as I was the first Wicked. I think you both know I really love that first movie. This one kind of, I won't say let me down, just the highs weren't as high as they needed to be. And then after I saw that, I went back to the theater on Sunday and saw The Running Man. And then finally, I watched Caught Stealing last night. And I think saying this, I'm not even saying this as a joke. This is the first Darren Aronofsky movie I've watched and not like questioned everything about my life. After most of his movies either are viciously upsetting or like they're tough thinkers. But this, I mean, made me think, but it was like, it was also kind of a fun movie in a way. Yeah. So watch all 3 of those. I think they're pretty solid films.
Nice. Awesome. Well, thank you for listening again. Thank you for watching. And until next time, just keep watching movies and stay up to date with us. Go subscribe on YouTube. Bye.